on your website or on your even on my channel. That's as I have told you, that is the YouTube Kashiwa 2003. You can subscribe that one to get to be notified by the channel that the new lecture is available on my site. So you can even contact with me on a WhatsApp as well. So we are going to study in theory contents, that's autonomous nervous system, the different impulses from a viscera, resting membrane potential of nerve action potential, then its propagation, metabolism of nervous system, spinal cord, effect of section of a roots of a spinal nerves, properties of a spinal reflexes, brain, reticular formation of a brain, the thalamus, function of cerebral hemisphere, physiology of muscular system, molecular mechanism of muscle contraction, mechanism of skeletal muscle contraction, special features of muscles and abnormalities of skeletal muscle function, neuromuscular transmission through junction, contraction of smooth muscles, role of tissue factors and our hormones, mechanical characterization of smooth muscles. The practical contents which will be covered in this subject, that's the demonstration of effect of a single shock to a muscle, nerve preparation, and calculate time period of various phases, effect of a temperature on muscle contraction, muscle activity recording in pre and after a bathed condition, effect of increasing strength of stimuli on muscular contraction, effect of several successive stimuli on nerve muscle preparation, study of fatigue phenomena in muscle to determine the velocity of a nerve impulse in frogs nerve muscle preparation. So these are the practicals which will be conducted on advanced physiology and muscle, and the theory contents is already shared with you. The books which should be read down by the students, and especially these topics are available in the Duke's Physiology. That's Duke's Physiology of a Domestic Animal, 11th edition. That can be studied, or even you can study the authors and guidance textbook of medical physiology. So these are the books which are recommended for this syllabus to be studied, and thank you very much. You can even see again this syllabus will be available in the form of a PowerPoints and as well as in the form of a presentation or a lecture. So you can listen this one by watching this YouTube and even Microsoft Team. So this recording will be available on the both sides, whereas the contents in the PowerPoint presentation is available in the form of a file on the Microsoft Team in your group. That's in which you are attending these classes. So thank you. Now I will conduct my theory class for the for which I have given you the time. So after completion of a syllabus introduction, we are moving towards the another title or a class. This is the first class of the theory. So this is the first class of a theory which I am going to conduct. And this is very interesting topic there which we are talking about, and we are knowing the brain and its parts. So we will discuss over here the brain and parts. Now, this is the first slide which always I show to the students, having a title, having a presenter name, and as well as the contact number and the availability of this lecture on the different sites has been shown in this first slide. Now we are moving towards um the second slide. That's the brain. So brain having the different portions which has to be discussed over here. The front lobe, the occipital lobe or frontal lobe is a anterior lobe, whereas the parietal lobe is a central lobe, whereas the temporal lobe is a medial lobe and a lower lobe, and the cerebrum. That's the cerebellum and the pons and the brain stem. So these are the parts of the brain. That's the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and there is a cerebrum, cerebellum, and pons and brains. So these are the parts of the brain we have to discuss in a uh, detail. So brain is an organ of a soft nervous tissue contained in the skull of a vertebra, functioning as the coordinating center of the body. So this is, as you are knowing, that the whole body is being controlled by two systems. One is the endocrine system and other is the nervous system. So nervous system having two systems. One is the peripheral system and the other is the central nervous system. So brain is the most important and vital organ of the body, which uh, governs uh, the full control of the body, and it coordinates with all the functions of the body where the innervation is being supplied. So the brain gives the orders and receive the results of the different functions of the organs. So this is the controlling area where the everything has been communicated and interpreted, and then the actions are designed for the body. So the human brain parts are a forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the human brain is divided into three main parts on the basis of their function and placement. The three main parts of the human brain are as mentioned in the given diagram. That's forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. So there are three parts which is of the brain, and then the brain has been divided into three parts. You have to remember that's the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the position of the forebrain is, it is interior part of the brain, that it has three parts. So the interior parts of the brain having three parts. That's forebrain, that's cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus. So thalamus, hypothalamus, that comes into the forebrain. So there are three parts in the forebrain. One is the cerebellum, the second part is the thalamus, and the hypothalamus. So the uh, frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the parietal lobe, and you have to see that the midbrain, then the hindbrain, and sagittal cord, then the pons, medulla oblongata. The hind brain is consists of a cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. So there are three portions in the forebrain. One is the cerebellum, the thalamus, the hypothalamus. The cerebrum, the, the structure of the cerebrum, it is generally folded and divided into two halves called cerebral and hemispheres. So there is a two portions in the cerebrum. One is the known as a cerebral, and the other is known as a hemisphere. So there are two halves of a cerebrum. So the function, the right hemisphere having a functions or a responsibility for the control of a left side of the body and is the more artistic and a creative side of the brain. Whereas the left hemisphere is responsible for the control of the right side of the body and is the more academic and a logical side of the brain. So if you see that every portion of the brain having a responsibility which controls the body, and the right hemisphere is controlling the left side of the body, whereas the left hemisphere is controlling right side of the body, and the right side is uh, mostly academic and a logical side, whereas the left side is a artistic and a creative side. The functions of cerebrum is to control the sight, hearing, speech. The controls the most of the voluntarily muscles responsible for the reasoning, responsible for the intelligence, responsible for thinking and decision making. So cerebrum having a the most important uh, actions, that's to see, to hear, to speech, and that always been given the response to the uh, in the society all these three senses. So these three senses are more important that whenever you are communicating someone that needed that you have to see it, you have to listen it, and you have to speak up so that you may have to having a good communication. So the cerebrum is the most important area which is giving you the character. The human being is being identified as a human because of these three senses. One is to see, other is to hear, and to speak. So all these three senses are controlled by the cerebrum. So the thalamus, it is located above the brain stem and between the midbrain. So the function is to receive the impulses from the eyes, ear, skin, and other internal organs and send these impulses to the cerebrum. So the hypothalamus is one of the area which receives the impulses from the eyes, from the ear, from the skin, and other internal organs. The messages being communicated to the thalamus, and these impulses are being transmitted, are being informed to the cerebrum, so that the action or the response may be given by the brain. So the location of the hypothalamus lies under the thalamus, and hypothalamus controls the metabolism, regulate the body temperature, regulate the water balance, and sleep. Whereas the pituitary gland structure, it is a P-shaped structure. That's function is to produce the hormones by this gland are helpful in the growth and the reproduction. So the hormones produced by the pituitary gland, the interior pituitary gland and posterior pituitary gland, it is well known that the endocrine system having a major gland which is controlling gland that's known as the pituitary gland. So the thalamus, hypothalamus, they are not only giving the control of the body by producing the impulses, but also they are responsible to control the endocrine system too. So the midbrain having a location, it is present under the cerebral hemisphere and above the hindbrain. So it is reduced in humans and it connects the forebrain with a hindbrain. So the midbrain is in between the hind and a forebrain. Therefore, it is known as the midbrain, and its control reflects movements of the eyes and hearing reflexes. So this midbrain is also engaging these two functions. That's the movement of eyes and hearing reflexes. Now the hind brain, it is present at the backside of the brain. So this is as it is known as the hind means the backside or lower portion of the midbrain because the mid is in between the forebrain and hind brain. So the hind brain is the lower portion of the brain, and it also has three parts which are as mentioned in the given diagram. There's the cerebellum. The midbrain has a cerebellum. Hindbrain has a cerebellum, pons, and the medulla oblongata. So these are the three parts of a hindbrain. That's the cerebellum, the pons, and medulla oblongata. The cerebellum having it is the located at the back side of the head, and it makes a 10% of the brain by weight. So the function of the cerebellum is control the body balance, correct the voluntary movements of the body, involved in the learning and memory storage, and for showing different behaviors. So this is the cerebellum is giving you the control of the body balance. So as you are knowing, the internal environment is being controlled by the endocrine system and the nervous system. So the cerebellum is giving a response to the body environment, which is influenced by the external environment. Immediately, the actions are being taken place by the cerebellum so that the internal environment or homeostasis can be maintained in the body for the better functions. So the pons, the cerebellum, the pons, the medulla oblongata, the cerebrum. Under the cerebrum, there is the pineal gland, the cerebellum. Uh, Latin word means bridge. So it is located above the medulla and it controls the sleep, controls the wakefulness, control the rate of breathing. So these bones are responsible for controlling the vacant sleep function and as well as the breathing system. So this has a main responsibility to perform its job, like to control a vacant sleep, whereas the problem, the persons which are possessing in a vacant sleep, they have a problem with the bones. The medulla oblongata, it is the posterior lower back part of the brain. So it controls the automatic functions like breathing, blood pressure, blood circulation, heart rate, vomiting. These are the main functions which regulates the body. So the blood pressure, breathing, blood circulation, heart rate, and vomiting is being controlled by the medulla oblongata. The mind below facts about the brain. The brain feels no pain. There is no pain receptors in the brain. That's why surgeons can perform brain surgery on a patient while they are still awake. 1 lakh miles of blood vessels in the brain. So brain has a 1 lakh miles of blood vessels. There are 100 billion neurons that comprise the brain. The brain produces between a 10 to 23 watts of power way back and enough to light a bulb. So means the energy which is being produced, that's about a 10 to 23 watts, which can even light a bulb. And mostly if you see that we always have nowadays 12 watts or even up to 23 or 24 watts bulbs in the houses. So it gives a good light to the home. So this is the brain which is producing the energy, the power in the brain. That is about 10 to 23 watts, and it is enough to light the bulb. So the way your brain is organized, there are difference between the right and the left brain. So the right hand controls writing, the language, the scientific skills, mathematics, less logics. So the left hemisphere linear thinking mode, whereas the left hand controls the emotional expressions, the BP arterial awareness, the dimension, the creativity, and the get whole picture. So the right hemisphere is hosting the thinking mood. So there is a uh, two portions of the brain, right and left. They have a different controls and they have a different performance, and they made the different character of the person if you are taking the uh, symmetry in the brain. The brain is split up into two symmetrical hemispheres, the right and the left. So they are controlling and they have a different character of a person. They are controlling a different character of the person by the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So the left hemisphere is artistic, it's logical, it's intelligent, whereas the right hemisphere is a holistic thinking mode, which is a creator, which is a dimension, uh, which is a uh, artistic, and that gives you a artistic character if the right hemisphere having a good neurons and having a good control. So that so sorry to ladies, the man's brain are 10% bigger. So there you go to concrete the proof that the men are smarter than women. Although the women's brains are similar, they have more nerve cells and connectors and work more efficiently than men. Your brain is more active when you sleep. So REM and night time is the right time for your brain to process all the activities that occur during the day. That's why scientists think we dream. No one is really sure why. So this is the your brain's always being more active in the night when you are sleeping. So therefore, this is not the true that the research has been mixed on the subject of a brain size and intelligence. So the Albert Einstein brain was only a 1230 grams, while the average adult male brain weighs 1400 grams. So that means that the intelligence does not relate with the size of a brain. If the person having a big size of a brain, it doesn't mean that it might be the intelligence. The bigger size brain peoples might be idiots. Idiots. So therefore, another study shows that the bigger the person had, the smarter they are, while those with pointier hairs shows less intelligence. So this means that there are so many scientific evidences that the similar brains are a similar size of the brain or a similar size of a head having a good intelligence or they are a good scientists or a good leaders or good um, social activists or even successful persons. Whereas the larger size of the brain, which is commonly known that if the person is possessing a large size of a brain, he must be a intelligent, or he must be a successful, he must be a good writer, a good thinker, good philosopher, good scientist. But it's not true. Sometimes the similar size of the brain or head has proved to be a good one, or a good scientist, or a highly professional. So therefore, the size doesn't matter. So this depends again on the use and the activity of the brain, or the person who is taking the actions and even practices on the different areas, he will be the expert. So that the intelligence is not depending on the size of a brain. It is a God-gifted um, the character, and the person may have a smaller brain size but having a good intelligence, and the person having a large size of brain but he is thinking silly. So the size of the brain doesn't matches with the intelligence. Thank you very much. This is the last slide by listening, and I'm ending this lecture over here, and then hopefully that we will again meet on a Monday, in which I have to conduct the theory class. And if you have any question, you can ask me, so that related with the brain or having any information about the brain, you can discuss over here. Thank you very much for listening patiently.